Purgatory in 2 parts. Part 1. I started going to church again after my sister Julia attempted suicide and failed. If my parents were surprised by my sudden reappearance in the back of their station wagon on Sunday mornings, they didn't show it. It was 1996, and I was 24 years old, a recent college graduate, living with my parents with no real future plan. Julia was 29 and lay comatose in a hospital, a result of her intentional overdose. We'd enter the church through the side door, sit to the left of the altar on the Virgin Mary side. My mother would lead us to a pew 3 or 4 rows back. I'd scoot next to her, my hair damp from a hasty shower. I knew when to kneel and when to stand and when to say, "and also with you." But when my head was bent over my clasped hands, I didn't pray for Julia. I didn't know what to pray for. Should I pray for her to live, even though she'd be crippled with brain damage? Or ask a God I didn't believe in to let her die as she wanted? While the parishioners' prayers floated up to the vaulted ceiling, my mother and I worshipped the children. We played peekaboo with the chubby-cheeked 6-month-old peering at us over her mother's shoulder. When a 3-year-old with a mop top dropped his Matchbox car, we handed it back to him with a smile. We nudged each other when a young girl in braids twirled up the aisle in a frilly dress, or when a dad separated his 2 fighting children. When Julia was 3, maybe 4 years old, she escaped the pew during Mass and ran up the aisle, flapping her arms like wings, shouting, "Tweet, tweet, I'm a bird, I'm a bird." Or so the family story goes. I wasn't born yet. The children my mother and I watched fondly and with amusement didn't know about the stale smell of the ICU, the rhythmic pumping of the respirator, or how the skin peels off a coma patient. They didn't know that the moment of death would be anticlimactic, only noted by the nurse turning off the monitor. The children only knew that church was boring, but soon there'd be the closing hymn and we'd all rise to leave. With the promise of a donut, the children would run across the church's lawn, taking off like birds free from their cage. Part 2. In feedback, I regret requesting, a Lit Mag editor said, quote, "There is no mention of what your sister's life had been like prior to the overdose. Can further insight be provided?" Further insight? What is it you want to know? What was so bad about my sister's life that she chose to end it? When my mother and I arrived at the emergency room that Tuesday morning 28 years ago, we were accosted by a young resident. With her hands on her hips and her scrubs stained with charcoal, she demanded, "Why did she do this?" Was that disgust we saw in her eyes? "I don't know," I said. My mother remained silent, although there was a click, a snap of a switch shutting her down permanently. What answer would have satisfied the resident? That Julia had yet another argument with her on-again, off-again boyfriend, that she was 29 and a secretary at an insurance company, that she drank and shopped too much. Is that reason enough to swallow 5 bottles of antidepressants? I returned to that moment in the ER over and over again in my mind, my resentment over the resident's callousness growing through the years. Why did that question of why bother me so much? I certainly wanted to know why as well. Did she not know we loved her, needed her? Could she not look into the future and see what a wonderful aunt she would be to my kids, had they rushed to greet their Aunt Jules at the front door and she'd spoil them with gifts she couldn't afford? Can further insight be provided? Do you want to know if there was a suicide note? Everyone wants to know, hoping for some clarification, but Julia only wrote, "I'm sorry," on a small pad she kept by the phone for messages, her handwriting wobbly from the drugs. The question of why punches me in the gut every time, because there's an accusation hidden in the 3-letter word. If there's a reason why, then there's something a friend, a mother, a father, a sister could have done to prevent Julia from ending her life. I know you want answers, Mr. Litmag editor. You want to make sure this never happens to your loved ones. I get it. But also, I don't. Because haven't you ever felt your anxiety twisting inside your gut as if a key was turning a coil so tight you fear it might burst? Have you never dragged yourself through a heavy day, feeling as if your feet were stuck in cement, your shoulders weighed down by anvils? Hasn't your bed ever felt like quicksand, with you slowly sinking into its crumpled depths? Haven't you ever thought, I just need this pain to stop? More than why did Julia choose to exit this world, Mr. Lit Mag editor? I want to know why the rest of us stay. Can further insight be provided?